Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon and welcome to the Inspirational Anna Show, the show that aims to always educate you, inspire you, and encourage you to be the best that you can be. Today has been a fantastic day already because for me at Endless, we're having a fun day, a day to spread Christmas cheer, a day to share joy wherever we can. So at Endless, my charity, today we visited a food bank where we gave away 20 $50 gift cards to be given to women and their children so that they can have a little better Christmas, just adding a little to what they were already planning. I know I'd be happy if I got a $50 gift card. So, hey, you can send me one if you want. And then in Ghana, we threw in a Christmas party for 100 kids from poor homes, poor neighborhoods, just to put a smile on their face and to put hope in their hearts. So, what are you up to? What are you doing to bring a smile to your family, friends, and community this Christmas? I'm wishing you all the best. We're not going to waste any time today. I've known my guest for quite a while. She's an inspiring woman. She's an inspirational woman. She's been a source of hope and inspiration to me on this journey of making a difference and touching lives. She's a personal and business coach, and her name is Sandra Leigh. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Sandra to give us some information, educate us, and inspire us. Hello, Sandra.
Hello, Anna. How are you? It's so nice
I'm
to see you.
It's too good to see you, I tell you. It's so good to see you. Hope everything is well with you and the family.
Yes,
And as we were saying before, I look forward to coming to Niagara so we could drive around and be girls like we did before, you
yes.
know, and enjoy life. So, welcome to the Inspirational Anna Show.
Thank you.
And today we're going to talk about having a personal coach or a business coach. But before we do that, please tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do.
Absolutely, Anna. Thank you. I just want to comment on what you just said about community. I always believe we should do something every day around community spirit. If
Mm,
it's something as simple as pushing all the shopping carts in and the parking
yes.
lots so that cars and people can get by,
Mhm.
opening the door for somebody, what you're saying makes such a difference.
Beautiful.
I have spent the last 30 years plus helping individuals, organizations, and entrepreneurs reach their potential.
Hmm.
And I've coached and mentored over 11,000 people in different continents. And what's interesting to me, Anna, is that over 80% of them are unhappy because they live their lives according to someone else's agenda. They do what
Mm.
everybody else expects of them.
Hmm.
And then they become adults and they still follow the same patterns they did as children, trying to please their parents or other people.
Hmm.
And so that's really inspired the work that I do in
Okay.
terms of helping people find out who they are and what is their potential. And so
Yes.
right now I help smart, ambitious women build confidence and reach their potential. And I'm also a national director for Life in Balance Careers, and I offer business opportunities to personal development entrepreneurs and practitioners. And I love what I do.
Beautiful. I like that. It shows the way you work, and I love what I do. It's as if you love the work so much, you just shook your head.
I do.
It's almost as if you can't believe you had the opportunity to do this kind of work because not everybody likes what they do. And so we're blessed when we fall in love with what we do.
Yes.
So before we go any further, at what point in someone's life do they need a coach? Or let's put it this way, why does someone need a coach in their life? I mean, we all know that there are basketball coaches, football coaches, so it's almost as if we've removed coaching to sports.
Right.
When you say coach, everybody understands it in the sports world. But when you say personal coach, it's almost as if people want to minimize it. But I think that is even more important than the football because you have to believe in yourself before you can get there. So tell us, at what point does somebody need a coach?
It's a great question. Well, Anna, my best response would be whenever you know there's some place that I need to get to,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure how to get there, because really that's what a coach does, is we help you move from where you are to where you want to be. And sometimes we don't know where we want to be. We just know we're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something. So here's an example. When I was talking about people who have followed someone else's agenda. So maybe I went to university, took a course that my parents expected I should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a career that they thought I should be doing, and I'm unhappy in my life. I don't care for my family. I don't care for anything. I feel stress and anxiety. I feel almost depressed. I hate getting up every day to go to work, and I want a better life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where a coach can fit in, whether it's a business coach or it's a personal coach. So in business, I may want to get a promotion, or I want to improve my leadership skills,
Mm-hmm.
or improve my emotional intelligence. Anything about me without judging myself that just says, I want to be in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we help people do.
That is amazing. I like that you mentioned emotional intelligence. I think sometimes we're so bogged down by life and the heaviness of life and everything that is coming at us. Pay this bill, do that, go to work, this and that we're removed from that emotional intelligence. So explain emotional intelligence and its importance.
It's
Why is
critical.
that a necessity in the
It is
lives that we
absolutely.
wake up every day and live?
Yes, it's critical. And if you look now on the competencies that companies are looking for when they hire people, they are looking for emotional intelligence. Anyone who has the aptitude to do a given task, whatever the job is that you're hired to do, be it an accountant or, a receptionist, doesn't matter what your job is. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the emotional intelligence to communicate effectively with people, you're not doing yourself or the company any good service. So emotional intelligence really is two things: my ability to recognize my own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get triggered, if something triggers me and makes me upset, am I aware of those? And do I know how to manage them in the moment? Or do I lose it and yell and scream and blame the world? So that's one part, is your own awareness and control. The
I would
second
like
part,
you, I would
yes,
like you to repeat that because
okay,
I think that's very important. That's very,
sure,
very critical.
it is. So the ability to recognize emotion in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes somebody says something and it triggers an emotion in us.
Mm-hmm.
And where that comes from is when we were children, something might have happened that we
Mm-hmm.
interpreted as a negative. So
Mm.
maybe we weren't recognized, or we were dismissed, we were minimized as children, and we don't feel worthy. And that sits in your subconscious. Then you're an adult, and someone says something to you, and you put on a lens that says, I'm unworthy. It is not what the other person meant, but it's how you perceived it, because that's been
Mm.
going on for years. That's what I mean when I say a trigger. So
Mm-hmm.
someone at work or a friend or family member says something innocently, and
Mm-hmm.
then you respond angrily because you interpreted it as they're attacking you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one part of emotional intelligence. Do I recognize the emotions that are building up inside of me, and can I control them in the moment? The
Mm.
other part of emotional intelligence is, can I recognize emotion in somebody else? I can't control theirs, but I don't have to own it if they're upset. And I might be able to influence them. I can't change them,
Mm.
but I might be able to influence them. So that's
Mm.
really the two aspects, generally speaking, of emotional intelligence.
I really like the second part of, because that sort of speaks to me. You know how it is when you're raising your children or working with people. Sometimes you find that some of the things you say are not taken in the context
Yes.
in which you said it.
Yes.
You meant well, but then it was interpreted in a different way. How do
Right.
you deal with that so that
Yeah.
you get to what you were because when you mean well, right,
Yes.
and it's not taken the way you wanted, sometimes it hurts,
Right.
right? But
Yes.
how do you deal with that? How
Yes.
do you deal with that so that it doesn't affect you and you still achieve the goal that you wanted to achieve?
Right. There's two things that I would say, Anna. The first one is to understand what happened. So we all have a story. We all have our own experiences in life that have caused us to interpret the world a certain way.
Mm.
So everyone has a story, everyone has experiences. So when I am talking to someone else, number one, I used to be afraid, Anna, to say things because I didn't want to upset other people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to intentionally say something rude to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I say things to people and they get upset, I remind myself, in the same way that I've had life's experiences and interpretations, so do they. So I will
Mm-hmm.
not own their interpretation of what I said.
Okay.
So that's number one. I do not take ownership for what someone else says.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important. And I think that the other piece of this is knowing that I'm triggered. If I feel triggered because of someone's behavior, that's on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing that I've taught for years is to validate understanding.
Mm.
So when I say something to someone, I may say to them, "Could I share an observation with you?" It's not appropriate for me to just come and give my opinion on how you behaved.
Mm-hmm.
Even in a coaching, a confirmed coaching relationship, I will ask my client, "Can I share an observation with you of what I'm
Mm.
saying and what I'm noticing?"
Mm-hmm.
I will say it in hopefully very nice language, but then I will say to them, "How did you interpret what I just said? Or could you
Mm.
tell me your understanding of what we just discussed?" Because I
Mm.
say X, they interpret Y, our conversation will not continue in a productive way. So we got to
So what
validate.
you're doing there is making it a conversational situation
Yes,
instead
yes,
of sort of just giving advice, which
exactly.
sometimes people don't accept.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And that's what coaching is all about. It's not about me telling you. I'm facilitating self-discovery in you.
Mm.
So if you said to me, "Sandra, I'm feeling really stuck," and I'll say, "Okay, tell me more about that, Anna. Where are you
Mm.
stuck and why do you feel stuck?
Mm.
What is it that you think is holding you back?
Mm.
Where is it that you want to go?"
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me all of this. So I'm uncovering your scenario, your roadmap, where you want to be, where you are now, and
Mm-hmm.
together we'll figure out how do we move forward, right?
Mm.
And then part of that, and here's the thing, is the ability to have a very deep conversation about what you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
what you're experiencing with compassion and no judgment.
Mm.
The
With
harshest critics are us. We're so hard on ourselves. We judge
yes.
ourselves and we say, "I'm not good enough." And
Mm-hmm.
that's so wrong.
Wow. Wow. So um so let's say I'm walking around. Let's use myself as an example, right?
Sure.
I'm walking around feeling overwhelmed by life's situations. Maybe I've experienced one trauma after the other, one trauma after the other. And now it's built up. It's
Yes.
built up to the point where I've become very defensive. You know, I'm sort of walking around in life fighting any and everything, even before it comes up.
Yes.
How do I offload and be able to breathe
Yeah.
and take life one step at a time? Because, as you know, I do a lot of work with women and things like that, and we're very judgmental of ourselves. And
Yes.
sometimes I will find that when you start talking to a woman, she'll go way back and this, and we rant on, right? And sometimes I'm looking at the person and I know if they could just breathe.
Yes.
Tell me, I don't, tell me if that is me,
Yeah.
how do I, for the life of me, deal with this overwhelm so that I can breathe and live?
Yeah. It's a phenomenal question, Anna. The number one thing that jumps to my mind is to meditate.
Mm,
And some people don't understand meditate. I just finished taking a neuroscience program and I
mm,
understand, and I've been meditating for a while, but I really understand the value. And what that means is it's allowing yourself to be still. And when you do that, there's a couple of ways you can do it. One is just let whatever is coming through your mind to come to the surface and start writing down whatever that is. Or you can meditate specifically. What is bothering me? What is
mm,
overwhelming me? And
mm,
when you get to a point of anxiety and high levels of stress, it's often because we feel out of control of our circumstances.
mm-hmm,
That's where the overwhelm comes in. There's too much going on. I can't make ends meet. I don't have enough time to do all this. I have to go to this family event that I don't want to go to because my relatives are rude and dysfunctional and they're mean to me. But I go because my parents expect me to, or someone expects me to, right? It's taking back your power. It's taking control. So part of it is being aware of what gives you stress. That's number one.
Being aware of what gives you stress.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Yes. And so I'm going to tell you a couple of things. There's another more detailed way, and I want to share this because I think this is really helpful. What's your story is the question. And so there's lots of ways to figure that out. But here's an example. What is my past situation? What did I experience growing up? How did it make me feel? What type of impact did that have on me? That alone there's more to it than that, but that's the first part. I'm going to use myself as an example. I'll take you through this. What were the positive benefits out of this? What was the catalyst for my own transformation? Where am I today? And how do I plan to use this information to go forward? So let me tell you how this works. And for those of you listening, you can think about your own story and without judgment. So for me growing up, I had some great moments, but I had dysfunction in my upbringing. There was degrees of trauma and emotional abuse for me. And so how did it make me feel? Unimportant, invisible, angry, unheard, unworthy. So the impact, I didn't know this until I was probably in my 50s, that I always had self-esteem, Anna. I knew what my skills were. I had amazing jobs. I knew what I was capable of, but I wasn't going far enough. I knew I had the ability to do more, which I wasn't reaching my potential, is what it's about. And so I figured it out with the help of professionals, because, as you say, it's so important to get help from people. And I learned that I had a fear of abandonment and betrayal of the people closest to me. Because as a child, they did not meet my needs for unconditional love, safety, security, all of that. So
please repeat that.
Okay.
Repeat that.
So as a child, because of what I experienced, I had a fear of abandonment and betrayal of people closest to me. So when my mother, who just passed away recently, and I love her, but we had challenges, she would be abusive to me verbally. She would hit me in the streets. When people tried to stop her for what she was doing, she'd tell them to F off and mind their own business, right? And that's just how she knew how to raise kids. Yes. Other parts of her were phenomenal as a mom, but the negative stuff had its toll on me, right? So how that impacted me is I lacked self-worth. And so when you lack self-worth, you have fears in the back of your mind. You are always judging yourself.
Right.
And you're not moving forward, right? So I had to learn that I had an unhealed little girl inside of me.
Wow.
And that's what was—
I like that. I really like that. That speaks to a lot of us. But,
yes,
like you keep saying things that I just want to pause on for people to sort of take in, right? Including myself, because we all, as we walk around, have a little bit of doubt inside of ourselves and fear inside of ourselves. So when I keep pausing, it's only because I want people to reflect on what you said so that on their own, they can do the self-reflection. But I'm sorry if I keep distracting you.
No, this is wonderful, Anna. We'll go where you need to go. And I'm going to talk about the relevance of what this could have on your audience. So here's the deal. When we're young children, in the first 7 years of life, we have no discernment of what our parents are doing, if it's right or wrong. So you could have the most loving parents in the world, but if they are suffering with their own challenges and they can't meet your needs, that impacts you. Yes. You feel, and it's not because they told you this, it's just how as children we feel unimportant. If you have parents that say, don't say that, watch what the neighbors say. And if so, anything they do that doesn't allow your perspective, your thoughts, your feelings to be heard and validated, they are invalidating who you are. So as children, we're amazing as kids. We find other ways to get our parents' approval. Because when you are young, if you don't have your parents' approval, in the back of our juvenile minds, We fear that we're going to lose our parents, and that is tantamount to death. So we
Mm.
will do whatever we have to do to get their approval. And that's how it starts. That's how we
Ah.
learn to subordinate who we are to other people.
Mhm.
But in the
Mhm.
back of our minds, in our childish minds, not our mature adult minds, we learn that we are not good enough. And if only I am a good girl, they will love me. If only I behave differently, they will love me. And that's how people pleasers are born. I'm
To the
generalizing.
point where sometimes we will minimize ourselves for others to be bigger and to feel
Yes,
good about themselves.
yes, absolutely. And that's how it starts. I learned to be very service oriented. And I'm good at it, but I would have company coming over and I would be so busy running around making sure everything was okay that I didn't stop enough to enjoy my company,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yes.
so and that's just one part of it, but how I would do things to get approval from people. Now, and this is years ago, I learned to not do that. Now, if I give of my time or of my service, it's because I want to, not because I'm
Mm.
trying to fill a void of a lack of worthiness.
Mhm.
And people will do things like, um, oh gosh, there's so many things that they'll do. They'll be people pleasers. They'll be perfectionists. They'll do anything they can to draw attention. Some people
Mhm.
might be addicted to sex, for example. I wasn't, but others might be, just to say, listen, if I do this, you're going to like me.
Right.
If I go and spend all kinds of money and have a fancy house, you're going to like me. And that's not what happiness is.
Wow.
And that's the thing,
Wow.
is that we grew up with a void inside of us.
So that void inside of us creates addictions
It
to
can
fill the
contribute to
hole.
that, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Because I feel unworthy and I don't understand what's going on in my emotion. This is part of emotional intelligence. It's part of my subconscious mind. I don't know what's going on. I just know that I'm in a marriage or a relationship or a job and I hate it. I am not
Mm.
myself. I'm expecting other people to fill my void. I'm
Mhm.
complaining about everybody around me. I'm a victim of my circumstances. And because I don't know what's going on. And so what happens is people do get addicted to things because it takes the pain away. I
Mm.
don't feel good enough inside. I compare myself to everybody around me. They're doing a job that I want. I'm not good enough. So I drink, I do drugs, I spend money shopping. Um, I might be addicted to sex, whatever it is. I'm trying to keep away from what I'm feeling inside. I'm pushing down my emotion.
Oh my God, Miss Sandra, you've just said things that are so profound. You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
a lot of people will be walking around doing all sorts of things and say they like it, knowing deep down inside that they don't like it. And the struggle rages,
It
right?
does.
The struggle rages. And my question is, when that rage is going on, how do you resolve this, Miss Sandra?
Yes.
Because in such situations, sometimes you wake up and everything rushes at you. So you
Yes.
go to that addiction
Yes.
to block it,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
how do you plow yourself? I'm saying plow,
Yes. That's the word. That's the right word. It's like
like
plowing heavy
plowing
snow.
through snow,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because the things that are coming at you are so many. How do you plow through it so that you can be you, Lord have mercy?
Yes. The most important thing, Anna, and probably the answer to all of this is number one, whatever happened to you and what you are feeling inside of you is not your fault. There is nothing wrong with you. You are lovable not because you deserve it. You are lovable because you exist. That's number
Mm.
one. You've got to know that. You may not feel it at this point, but you've got to know that. And if it means you write it down on a piece of paper and say, I am lovable just because I exist, write it down and remind yourself every day. That is the first step. The second part is to know that you have the ability to form your own opinion, to form your own beliefs, separate and apart from your family of origin, your culture, your religion, your group of friends, the community that you belong to. And it's not being critical of all of that, but you have the right to have your own
You have the right to have your own. Oh
perspective, your
Lord.
own beliefs, your own values. So the first answer to this is know that you are lovable no matter what, regardless of what people say. Because here's the thing, we talked about stories. Our parents, as wonderful as they are, have their own stories.
Mm,
In society years ago, women didn't have a voice, right?
yes.
Or women didn't get divorced. When my sister got divorced, my mother said, I didn't walk in the same side of the street as a divorced woman.
Oh,
That
wow.
wasn't helpful or supportive, but that was her belief.
That
And
was,
so,
yes.
right. So when your parents give you their belief, it is their belief from their generation and their experience. It may have nothing to do with you.
Mm,
Absolutely nothing. And the other thing is your parents are going to love you no matter what. Your children are going to love you no matter what. You will never lose them. So don't be afraid of
mhm,
them getting hurt. A classic example would be a father that is very strong about going to church and believes that in his community, in his world, when you go to church, you are an upstanding citizen.
mhm,
So now he has a child who is an adult in their 20s or 30s who doesn't want to go to church. And he criticizes them and says there's something wrong with you. What he's
mm,
really saying is, I am owning your behavior. I am what's the word I'm looking for? I am evaluating myself as a father because my belief is that everyone should go to church to talk to God. Where some people say, you know what? I talk to God in my own way. I don't need
yeah.
to go to church to do that. The point I'm trying to make is people, when they give you their opinions, most times it is their view of the world.
Mm,
Not everyone is capable of saying, what is your opinion, Anna? How do you feel about that? And how is your opinion different from mine? And that's okay.
mm,
Right?
mm,
So that's
mm,
that's the first part is to know you're lovable. The second part is to give yourself permission to have your own opinion, your own beliefs.
mm. So, as a coach, let's say you're not getting through to, because, sometimes we're so stuck in our ways
Oh yeah.
and we're comfortable in our negative ways. Well, at least, you, the coach, is seeing it as negative. But what if that person believes that this is what they're supposed to do? It's the right thing, and yet they're sitting in front of you needing help. How do
Yes.
you get through to such a person? Because sometimes, as a coach, you can clearly see the person's potential.
Yes.
Sometimes they don't have to say much.
Right.
All you have to do is listen to them a few minutes and you can already see their potential, but somehow they've dug deep into where they are. How do you break through
It's
to the
great.
person?
Great. I love your questions. They're great. Well, the thing is, you can't tell, teach, coach, mentor, guide, advise anybody unless they want it.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what. Any of you who are in the teaching or guiding or mentoring profession, coaching profession, you know that you cannot move someone if they don't want to move. So the first thing we want to do is create that awareness. So we facilitate self-discovery. So what I would do is I would help them figure out from the inside. I can tell them all the potential I see in them, and that
Mm-hmm.
they'll say, okay, I hear you. Thanks for the positive feedback, but I don't believe it and nothing will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you have goals and you have beliefs and they are not in sync, the beliefs will always win. So
Mm-hmm.
what I will do is I will find out, what is it that you want? What are
Yes.
your goals? What are you trying to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
And really dig into that. What does that look like? What does it feel like? What would you be doing? Who would you be with?
Mm-hmm.
How is how how do you see yourself getting there? Why is that even important to you? So
Mm-hmm.
really what I want to do is find out their sense of purpose. I want to find out who they are, what's important to them. And when you have a goal and we say, where are you now? What is holding you back from achieving that goal? They'll start to uncover some of the things. And all I do is just keep questioning whatever, just like we're doing. Whatever they say, I'll just dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And they will come to the realization. And when they do, they usually say, oh my God, I just
Mm-hmm.
realized now what I've been doing. Or they'll say, well, and I'll say, well, what do you believe about that? And they'll tell me. And I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
where does that belief come from?
Mm-hmm.
And they might say my parents, or it's the way it's always been. I said, okay, do you believe that deep down in your core? And what would happen if you didn't believe that? What would
Mm-hmm.
the ramifications of that be? Because sometimes they need to know that it's safe. So it might take a lot of work around just beliefs. And how do you bring
Mm-hmm.
them to the surface? Oh yes, it's fascinating.
Wow.
It's
It's
fascinating.
very It's a very interesting thing. But now, let's say you've worked with this person and now they sort of understand themselves, right? But there's still that doubt in the back of their mind.
Yes.
How do you help that person now move from point A to point B? Because you can't force them. You
No, you
can't
can't.
tell
You
them,
can't. Yeah.
you can do this, you can do that, da, 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 da. How do you bring that person? Because understanding and discovering is one thing.
Yes.
Then going on to create the actual life you want is another story.
Yes. The transformation is you can have
Thank
all
you.
the knowledge in the world, but without transformation, it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. Then
Right.
it's like you know all this and you're just walking around wasting time. How do you get the person to bloom like that beautiful flower you see in your mind's eye, but the person doesn't see it?
Yes. Okay. Great question. What we do is I would help them create a personal foundation for themselves.
Okay.
So in that foundation, they would answer the questions, and sometimes it takes several conversations. So who are you? So what are your values? So a values exercise would be an exercise, and I have some of these on my blogs. But values might give you a list of, let's say, 20 attributes. What's important to you? Family, integrity, money, friends, family, respect, things like that. And when someone does that exercise, you go through and you identify maybe your top 5 or 10 values that are really important to you.
Mhm.
And then you'd go through it again, and anyone can go online and look for values exercise. There's lots of them for free. And come up with maybe your top 5 or 3 values that are important to you. Forget about anyone else, not what's important to your spouse or your boss or your family. What is important to you at this stage in your life?
Mhm.
Right? So that's the first part. And then just sit with those and start to feel those. So to me, family is important. To me, health is important. Respect is critical. Integrity is critical, right? And maybe adventure. So that's one part of the foundation, is what is important to you. Because when people disconnect, it's
Mhm.
often because there's a values disconnect.
Say that again.
So
Say that again.
when we disconnect with others or our situation or our job, it's often because there's a values disconnect. So let
Mm.
me give you an example. Um, I value integrity. I value love. I
Mhm.
value respect,
Mhm.
adventure. For example, there's others, but those are some of the core ones. So that I put that up on a piece of paper, I laminate it, and I hold that up against every decision I make. If I am in a romantic relationship with someone who does not respect me, who does not have integrity, that's the wrong place for me.
Mm.
So you're talking about, how do I live this fulfilling life? You've got to know yourself first.
Mm.
You're so
Mm.
busy absorbing everyone else's
It's
expectations.
like the foundation. Knowing yourself is the foundation
Who
of
are you
anything
and
you
what
do.
Yes, who are you and what do you stand for? So if I'm working in a company and my boss is abusive to me and yells and screams at me, doesn't give me any recognition, is just treating me like heck, I'm not going to stay in that job. I don't
Mhm.
care how much I need the money. Yes, I'll obviously have to not leave until I have another job to pay my bills, but I will look for another job. I
Mhm.
will not accept the circumstances because my values say I am better than that. I want something that meets these expectations. That's
Let's
the
pause
starting
here. Let's pause here for a second.
point.
You talked about if you're in a relationship or a job
Yeah.
and you're not being respected, you're
Mhm.
not being valued, you
Mhm.
shouldn't stay there.
Right.
Now, tell us what that kind of situation, because I want people to understand, including myself, what that kind of situation does to you as a human being.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, you go to work today, he abuses you, or you come home, he abuses you. Then you go to work, then you come home, and you're taking all this abuse.
Right.
Tell us what that type of situation does to you as a human being, please.
Yeah. It reinforces your feelings of I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of being treated with respect. And the thing is that if we are used to that, in my first husband was a male version of my mother. I didn't even know how to recognize that. He was wonderful in
Mm,
many ways, but when he was sort of controlling and things like that, and I'm going, what is this? But I didn't know how to recognize it because that's what I grew up with, right? And then it started to not feel right. And then
mhm.
I started, so I mean, you don't just get up and walk out, you try and fix it.
You
But the first
try
thing
and
you have
fix
to
it.
do, yeah, the first thing I had to do was to say, why am I unhappy? And be honest with myself. What is
Mm,
it that I don't like about this? I don't like being yelled at or sworn at or called names or, whatever the case. I don't want that in my life. And I have
mm,
the right to say, I don't want that. So instead of going to the other person saying, you're an idiot, I will go to them and say, listen, I value this relationship, but I don't like feeling like this. When you say these words or when you behave that way, this is how I feel.
mhm,
Instead of
mhm,
saying, you're an idiot, you're never this, don't talk to people like that because they won't listen to you. But
mhm,
I'm asking you, as my partner or as my boss or as my friend, to please not speak to me in that manner.
mhm,
I find it offensive. I find it hurtful. And I don't want that in my life. What are your
mm.
thoughts on what I just said?
So
That's
what
when
you're
you say
saying is
something.
that
I'm
in
sorry?
those types of situations, maybe walking away is not the best thing for you at this time. You should learn to communicate what you're feeling, how it feels, that how that situation feels to you, to the person
Yes.
who
Yes.
you're with, to
Yes.
hopefully understand. And because this, maybe this job or this person has been part of your life for a long time,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you should learn to talk to them. Please tell us, what are some of the ways we should speak with people in our lives who treat us not the way we want to be treated?
Right.
Tell us,
Right.
what are some of the ways to
Yes.
communicate? I just want us to repeat some of the
Yes.
things you've said
Yes.
to
Yes.
give me
Yes.
and the audience those basic skills that we need to
Yeah.
be able to communicate our hearts.
Yeah. Yeah. So number one, you've got to know that you don't have to put up with that. And you are not a victim of that. So what happens is we can't control really what other people do, but we can control our response. So when someone says something that triggers you and upsets you and hurts you, try to stay calm in the moment. And if you need to remove yourself because it's so intense and so painful and so overly emotional to you, for example, try not to react in the moment. Just say, listen, I need to take a few minutes for myself in this moment. I don't want to say something that I'm going to regret. Give
Mhm,
me a few minutes. I don't want to walk out on you. That's not what I'm doing. I just need a few minutes to regroup and consider my thoughts. If it's
mhm,
highly charged, that's one
mhm,
thing you can do. That's doing it with respect. Now, if that
mhm,
person yells and screams at you and said, they try and make you feel guilty or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just know what you need and do it with respect. So that's the
mhm,
first part. When you come back to have a conversation, you can say, I would like to speak with you, please. Do you have time? I want to talk to you about what just happened. But it's always best to do it once you've calmed down.
mhm.
So
Almost asking permission
to have a conversation.
so the person doesn't feel threatened.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And so here's some ideas. Let's say it's a spouse, okay? And you say, listen, we're married. I love you. I know you love me. I want to be in this relationship. There are things that are going on for me that I don't feel comfortable with, and I'd like to share them with you. Are you willing
Mhm,
to have this conversation with me? And sometimes, especially if the other person is explosive and they don't have the ability to understand, right? Don't worry if they're going to get upset because it's going to happen. It's inevitable. But what you want to say to them would be, I feel certain ways and I want to share them with you. And I'm going to ask you to please listen to me. What I have to say to you is very important to me.
mhm,
And I'm asking you to please respect that and please hear me out. So
mhm,
I'm going to say what's on my mind, and I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
mhm,
And so I'm going to say something like, when you say or do this, I'm not criticizing them, I'm just stating a fact. When you do X, this is how I feel. Now, some of those feelings are your own because of how you felt all your life. It
Right.
may not have anything to do with them,
Right.
right? But what happens is we all form our own interpretations of what happened. I
Mhm.
remember having an argument with my husband a long time ago, and he got really mad at me, and I said, "Okay, I'm the coach here," so I stopped. Yeah. Anyway, so I
Let's
stopped and I
put
thought
on
about
our
it. I said,
coach
"Okay."
hat.
Yeah. So one of the things that's really powerful, and it's hard when you're hurting, but you say to the other person, "Okay, tell me, how do you feel?" That's question number one. Question number two is, what did I do or say to make you feel that way? Okay, how did you interpret what I just said? Number four would be, can I share with you the intention of what I was trying to say?
Mhm.
Because I want to figure out if it is the words that I use that I could do it differently, or if it's
Mhm.
how you chose to interpret what happened.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
both ways, right? But really, what you want to do is ask for permission, set the stage. I
Mhm.
want to talk to you about something that's important to me. And you know what? If your partner or your friend or whoever it is that you're having this conflict with, if they really care about the relationship, they're going to want to invest their time and energy, but recognize they may not know how to do this. They may not know
Mm.
how to respond. But here's the thing, this goes back to your earlier question. This is how you start to build strength. When you know who you are and what your values are and what your boundaries are. Do not cross these boundaries. Do not yell at me, swear at me, call me names. I will not engage with you. You've got to set that first. And then
Mhm.
you've got to tell them when things are calm, here's what I want in my life. This is what I need to feel happy and feel good in my life. And so the best I can do is share with you what I'm asking of you. Please do not do this, this, and this because I will no longer want to participate in that.
Mhm.
So look
So,
at it. Go ahead.
in other words, with everything you're saying, it goes back to starting to believe in yourself.
Yes.
Because once you believe in yourself, and like you said, you know your value, then you can communicate what you're feeling.
Yes.
But
Yes.
until you believe in yourself, which then leads you to understand who you are, then leads you to understand what you can and cannot take,
Yes.
you cannot resolve issues with others.
That's right.
That is what you're saying to us.
That's right. That's right. You've got to have your own framework. What do I value and what are my boundaries? What am I willing to accept and not accept? You've got to do that work first. And just write it down. And you know what makes your skin crawl, what hurts you. These are all the things I do not want. And it'll also show up in your values. And then you communicate to the people around you. And that's how it starts, Anna. That's how you start to build your strength. Because you'll see that when I say this to someone, they might change a little bit, they might change a lot, they might not change at all. But what you've done is you started the self-worth stuff. I'm going to tell you that we all have it inside of us, but because of life's experiences, it all got buried.
Don't
All of
push
our
me.
emotions, our needs, our wants got buried, and it will eventually come to the surface like a pot boiling over, and the lid's going to blow
Poof.
off.
Yeah.
Right? And you know where it shows up? It shows up in your marriage years later. You've got kids, you've got all this, and you start blaming your spouse for everything that's going on when the truth is just look inside yourself.
Just look
It's you who
inside yourself.
haven't brought it to the surface, and I'm not blaming you. It's not your fault. It's what's happened. It's life. But I want to show this if I have it here. Here is a phenomenal book. It's called Emotional Blackmail. When
Mm-hmm.
people use fear, obligation, and guilt to control you. So when someone says to you, you
So,
don't,
who is the book by?
oh, Dr. Susan Forward.
Emotional Blackmail.
It's a
Okay.
fantastic book. It actually lists in here words and statements that people will use against you. Things like, you don't care about me. They slam the door, they yell, they sigh, they cry, they do all kinds of stuff to you. But it gives you things. So, for example, I'm taking a stand for what I believe in. I'm not letting fear run my life. I confront people. I am defining who I am rather than being defined by what other people say I am.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it gives you lines to use when someone says you should be doing this and they try and control you. You can say, you know what, that's your opinion. You're entitled to that, but I don't agree with that.
Mhm.
and how to
Mhm.
not crumble under someone's words. Because this is a technique. This book changed my life. It's a phenomenal book.
Mm.
So yeah, so let me just summarize. So starting with what are my values, what's important to me, and what are my boundaries? What will I accept and not accept? You've got to know that first.
Mhm.
And then to the people closest to you that are behaving that way, they may not know any different.
Mm.
Love you dearly, but they just don't know because no one's ever had the conversation of this nature
Mhm.
with them. But you can start to set up your own world of what you are prepared to accept and not accept. And if you don't want to go to that family event because your sister-in-law is going to be rude and this one's going to criticize you and people are going to bring you down, you don't go. Who
Mm.
says you have to?
That takes a lot of courage.
Yes, it does. If you have to, and I'm not one to support lying, but if you have to say a little white lie to not go until such time
Save
as you build your
yourself.
strength, then
Save
you can say, you know
yourself.
what, I'm not prepared to go.
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you, I was estranged from my mother for 2 years. And she just passed away. This was about 4 years ago. And I said, Mom, I love you, but if you cannot speak to me with respect and have an adult conversation with me and not be rude and demeaning to me, I am not prepared to have a conversation with you. I love
Mhm.
you and I want a relationship with you, but I will not participate anymore. I've had enough.
Mhm.
And she pretty much said, well, that's too damn bad. I'm going to speak to you any way I want. I said, no, you won't. I will not, because I won't be there. I won't engage. And people criticized me, said, that's your mother. How could you do that? I said, I love my mother, but I will, just because she's my mother, I will not tolerate this. And it took
Mhm.
about 2 years.
Mhm.
And as we would have conversations, if she started to get rude, I'd say, Mom, I'm going to go now. And I'd hang up the phone politely. I wouldn't hang up on her. I'd just say, I'm going to go. And then make a long story short, um, um, about a year and a half ago, I was up at her place. She lives 8 hours away from us, and she was she looked like she was sick and she couldn't live on her own. She's 88 years old. We brought her to live with us, which was huge, Anna, given my history with her. And
Right.
and I was able to, and I set some boundaries with her. I didn't expect her to be perfect, and she came into our house, and I didn't know, and neither did she. She had terminal cancer, and she died 4 months later. But you know what? I was able to understand my relationship with her, set
Mhm.
my boundaries with someone that I'm very close to,
Mhm.
have her come into my home on my terms.
Mhm.
And it was pretty good. There was rough moments, and then I was able to sort of close that chapter of this relationship. And then she just passed away last March. And now I miss her. And when things happen, I want to go and talk to her. But I'll tell
Yeah.
you, if I hadn't have done that work, what are my values? What do I stand for? What are my boundaries? I could never have had that relationship and have this beautiful ending to a 60 years of a rough relationship with someone.
That was a beautiful ending because you had the opportunity to actually come close
Yeah.
and communicate on a level that I'm sure gave her some peace
Yes.
and also gave you your self-worth back.
Yes.
So
Yes.
both of you gained something in the last 4 months of her life that she came to stay with you. Isn't God amazing?
Yes, yes, yes. And I'll say one
Wow.
other thing to your listeners, Anna, is that you'd be surprised at how you can inspire others just by voicing your own opinion on what's important to you. Because when you let your own light shine, you give other people permission to do the same. And don't ever be afraid to say what's important to you. Because the only one that's going to ever look at you and help you be your best is you. Look in the mirror and say, I am beautiful. I am capable. And I have the ability and permission to go and be whoever it is that I want to be. And
I
the answer
love
to that
that.
is what's in your heart. Follow what's in your heart.
So now you've communicated how you feel, what you will accept and not accept, and you're beginning to gain confidence because I know from experience that when I'm able to speak my mind,
Yes.
that alone releases some of the burden off me.
Yes.
So now you've done that, you've uploaded the burden, now you're standing tall and you're ready to be your best self. Where do you start from?
Where do you start from? Well, you think about what is it that I want to do? And
Yeah.
if you go back to my story, I have a site, a website called nextlevelmentor.org. And in there, this is for personal development practitioners, but in there is a blog called My Story. It tells you exactly how to do it. Look at your story and how did that impact you? And so as a result of my life, I love helping other people who are on a similar journey to mine. That is my life's purpose. Nothing can take that away from me because I've lived it. It's my experience. It is my passion. Right. And so if you can figure out your purpose, one way to do it is figuring out your story. And if you go there, you'll see how to do it. Because that is going to lead you to what you're meant to be doing. And then you can move forward in your life. There's something called living in flow. When you live in flow of what is natural to you, what feels right, fulfilling your purpose. Look at the work you do, Anna. You are a beautiful example of that. You love the difference that you make for other people.
I
And
do.
you inspire people. You do. You inspire people every day. Right? So think for all of us that are listening, if you can find your own internal intrinsic motivation, what makes you happy? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What has I'm not talking about kids and obligations. I'm talking about things that bring you joy. What keeps you up at night until you can't keep your eyes open anymore? That passion. And so there's a couple of ways that you can do that. So sometimes people might say to you, they thank you. What is it people thank you for? What is it that makes you happy? If you had no limitations, no restrictions in terms of kids, money, time, whatever, what would you do? Daydream about. And
you need to figure that out.
Yes. And so once you have your foundation, you create a plan to live in flow of this purpose, what you're meant to be doing.
Wow.
Right? And so you think about what's my goal? What do I want to achieve? And everything you do is all somehow connected to that purpose. I live in flow every day. I'm 62 years old. I have never been happier in my life than I am right now because I found myself.
You found yourself. I like that. I like that you mentioned your age and the fact that you're living in flow, right? Because some of us think I'm supposed to be happy now and this and that, right? But it's not a race. It is a process.
It is. And I have another website called connectwithsandra.com. In there are blogs in the section called Believe. It's everything that we've spoken about today. Go down to the very beginning of all those blogs. It helps you to identify what happened to you when you were growing up. How did you absorb that? And it's all the steps on how to move forward.
Why is it important to go back to what happened to you when you were growing up? Why is that a necessity?
Because it helps you to understand what happened and why you feel the way you do. It's going to get you don't have to, but a lot of people like to do that. I know many people that made a profound difference because right now I think I'm not good enough and I compare myself to everybody else and I can't move forward in my life. But when I go back to see how it started, and I can, and I've done research on this a lot, but I can certainly share from my own journey's perspective that when I learned why I was of service to people. And so here was my question to my counselor. I said, I am a smart, intelligent, capable woman, but sometimes I feel like a little girl in how I respond, how I feel inside, not how I react because I control that. But I don't understand. So that's how I learned of why I had a hurt, unhealed little girl inside of me. And so she was sabotaging my thoughts. So when I'm in a relationship and I have a fear of abandonment and betrayal, that little girl's voice is coming up. It's my subconscious.
Repeat that for me, please.
Most of us have an unhealed child inside of us, a little boy or a little girl inside of us. I had a little girl who never healed from some of the dysfunction in my upbringing. So it's her thoughts that were coming into my adult life. I want to do something. And she's saying, no, because you're going to be betrayed and abandoned. Don't go there. And this person's going to hurt you. So all these thoughts, because that was my experience. And it's a valid experience. But if I didn't go back and understand that, I wouldn't have been able to make the transition to move forward.
So what you're saying is that it is important that you understand your foundation. It's like a building. If the foundation is weak, the building will not stand.
Exactly.
So it is important No matter what level, PhD, whatnot, it has nothing to do
Nothing.
with that. It has everything to do with your foundation. It is important that you go to that foundation and understand it, deal with it so that you can move forward.
Exactly. And that's what potential is. It's not about, as you said, it's not what your education is, the house you live in, the money you earn, the job you, that is not potential. It's not comparing yourself to your neighbors. Potential is what is in your heart. What's been buried all those years. So find your intrinsic motivation, find your sense of purpose. And when you are living, tell me, Anna, are you not living your potential right now?
Lord have mercy.
You are doing so much around the world. You are making such a difference. That this is you are a classic example of someone who has found their life's purpose, and you are
Yes.
inspiring people every day. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a classic example of someone who has reached their potential. And there's still more to do. There's more to do for sure.
Oh, there's so
Yes,
much more to do.
that's
But
right.
today you've given us two websites. Connectwithsandra.com.
Mhm.
And what's the other one?
Nextlevelmentor.org. O-R-G.
Nextlevelmentor.org. So
.org.
nextlevelmentor.org.
Yeah. The first
And
website is for people that want to find their own authenticity. Who are you really? That's what that site does. The second one is for those who are personal development practitioners or entrepreneurs and want to expand their businesses. And so there's tools in there that can help you. But if you're looking for my story, it's in the Next Level Mentor site for those of you
okay.
that want to explore your own story.
Miss Sandra, I don't think 1 hour is good enough for us, so you're going to be back
I would love to come
again.
back.
But in the meantime, in these few minutes that are left, tell us something as we go into the end of the year and into the new year. Give us a little bit of encouragement so that no matter how this year turned out, we go to the next level next year.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the pandemic has impacted so many people to the extent that people are saying, what I was doing before isn't important anymore. I want a more fulfilling life. And so we all have that ability to find our own fulfilling life, to give ourselves permission to go to a quiet space where no one's around. Even if you have to write it down, what do I want in my life? Close your eyes or meditate on it. And when you meditate, you can say to yourself, what do I really, really want? And don't feel guilty for what you say. I want to make a difference in other people's lives. How do I want to do that? I want to open my own business. I want to have a better relationship with my kids or my spouse or whomever. How can I do that? Choose one thing that you want to have different in your life. Write out, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And then what steps do I need to take to get there? Just one thing. And once
Just
you do
one
that, do
thing.
another one. Just one thing.
Just one thing.
Yes.
Well, Miss Sandra, I knew this would be a good conversation. I feel like this 1 hour has gone gently by, and we've touched on some of the most basic things that we can all do to better our lives, to reach our full potential. But if you're listening and you need more, go to nextlevelmentor.org or connectwithsandra.com. I know I feel good. I'll be following Sandra all over the place to reach my full potential, because I know I haven't even scratched the surface of what I'm capable of. I started with her. I've been going with her in the back of my mind. Now I'm really pursuing her. Miss Sandra, have a good holiday.
Thank you, Anna. You too.
Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for honoring me, and I honor you on this journey of life. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been the Inspirational Anna Show, inspiring you to live your best. As Sandra said, it's all inside of you. It's not out there. So whatever you do, go to your story. Learn from your story. Let your story inspire your next level. And until then, be encouraged, be inspired. It's the Inspirational Anna Show. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel on YouTube so that you can listen to conversations for the soul. Stay blessed. Bye-bye, Miss Sandra.
Bye, everybody.